Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Tell you, those two spotlights back there, they're hard on the eyes, but we're going to get started here with our next presenter. And our next presenter will be the Democratic candidate for Attorney General, Mr. Mark Herring. He was raised by a single mother in Loudoun County, Virginia. She instilled in him that when you see a problem in your community, you have an obligation to try and fix it. He worked construction and other jobs in order to help pay for college, and he's never forgotten where he came from, which is why he works every single day to make our families and communities safer. As Attorney General, Mark is a leading voice for criminal justice reform in the Commonwealth. He led on decriminalization of cannabis and is continuing to push for legal, regulated adult use and to resolve past convictions. He is also championing progressive reform measures like cash bail reform, expanding record expungement and reentry programs, diversifying the judiciary, and increasing safety, transparency, and accountability in policing, use of force, and deaths in custody. Throughout the COVID pandemic, Mark has worked to keep Virginians safe and help them get through this health and economic crisis. He has successfully defended Virginia's COVID safety measures in court more than a dozen times, secured the first moratorium on utility disconnections, has helped address evictions during the pandemic, and has worked to stop price gouging and to get more PPE into the hands of those who need it. Mark has gone to court time and again to protect health care. When former President Trump abandoned the defense of Obamacare in court, Mark stepped in to protect coverage for pre-existing conditions and to keep health care affordable and accessible for Virginians. He has also sued to block efforts to defund Planned Parenthood and limit women's access to reproductive health care. Even in the NRA's backyard, Mark has been a proud champion for common sense gun safety laws like universal background checks, bans on high-capacity magazines, and bump stocks, reinstatement of Virginia's one handgun a month law and a red flag law, and has gone to court to successfully defend Virginia's new gun violence protection laws from legal attack by the NRA and the gun lobby. He has sued to block untraceable, undetectable 3D guns from hitting the streets and launched innovative campaigns to reduce violence in Virginia communities. As Attorney General, Mark has assembled an elite team of prosecutors to crack down on heroin and fentanyl traffickers, illegal guns, human trafficking, and those who attempt to exploit our children online. Mark led a multi-million-dollar, multi-year project completed in July 2020 to completely eliminate Virginia's backlog of untested rape kits. As a result of his work, more than 2,600 kits were tested. Virginia's backlog has been completely eliminated and charges are being brought against suspects. He also chaired Virginia's task force on campus sexual violence and is pushing for authorization of the Violence Against Women Act. Mark has won huge victories in court for LGBT Virginians, for dreamers, immigrants, and new Virginians, and for the right of all Virginians to live, worship, and raise their families free from hate and discrimination. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Herring, Democratic candidate for Attorney General. Nice to see you, sir.
Sheriff Hall, thank you so much for the welcome. And it is such a pleasure to be here with all of you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I just want to start off with a great big thank you for all the work that you, deputies and staff, do every single day to keep our neighborhoods and our communities safe. I'm Mark Herring, and I'm proud to have served you and all Virginians as your Attorney General over the last 8 years. I grew up in Loudoun County and was raised by a single mom, and one thing she would always tell me as I was growing up is when you see a problem in your community, you've got a responsibility to try to fix it. And I think that is probably some of the same reasons why many of you decided to put on a badge and serve our Commonwealth, to serve the community and public. I know that the work that you do is absolutely indispensable to the safety of our communities and the success of our communities. So I'm glad to be here to first of all say thank you. During my term as Attorney General, you've all been very generous with me in sharing your perspectives and ideas on ways we can work together, ways the state can better support you and your work, or just informing me about what's going on in your community. So much of what we've accomplished together. So please know that my door will always continue to be open to you. All of the public safety initiatives out of our office are developed and executed with input from you, your colleagues, and the broader law enforcement community. And I'd like to just share a few of those accomplishments. The heroin and prescription drug crisis continues to affect so many communities, and I know this is something that you're on the front lines of, as you have been every single day. Sheriffs have stepped up in such a big way on this fight against opioids, especially in rural areas and in jails. And sheriffs are absolutely essential to managing the epidemic. I've talked with so many chiefs and sheriffs about the misalignment of treatment and the burden on our law enforcement agencies that are asked to shoulder what is really as much a public health crisis. That is why, following my 2014 statewide public safety tour, I helped implement new overdose reduction bills that helped address the Commonwealth's heroin and prescription drug crisis, encourage reporting of overdoses in progress, and save lives. I led the state's effort on prevention, education, breaking down the stigma of addiction, and supported the recovery community. My team and I went after some of the biggest dealers and traffickers in the state who profit off addiction, working more than 90 cases and involving more than 430 pounds of heroin worth millions on the street. I also went after the pharmaceutical companies for their role in creating and prolonging this crisis. First, to stop their lies, and then to hold them accountable and help recover tens of billions of dollars for those who need it, for support and recovery services. Virginia alone is expected to receive over $500 million over a period of years. We've also created new ways to support victims of domestic violence, including lethality assessment protocols in dozens of communities across the state to reduce domestic violence and to prevent homicide. My team and I have kept sexually violent predators off our streets and made major investments in new technology to protect our children from exploitation and bring perpetrators to justice. We've also fought back against human trafficking in a lot of new ways, including creating the Hampton Roads Human Trafficking Task Force, which is becoming a national model, not just to apprehend perpetrators, but also to rescue and support victims. We've transformed how Virginia has responded to sexual violence in numerous ways, including eliminating the backlog of untested rape kits in Virginia, which has meant so much to survivors. It has already led to 1 conviction and 2 others charged, and we expect more to follow as additional cases get reviewed. In 2018, I launched VirginiaReentry.org to address the lack of resources and coordination for local jail inmates when released, and the lack of programs for women inmates. I also created an online reentry portal to help local sheriffs prepare inmates for release and connect them with support services outside. Though previously, Virginia had a comprehensive plan to address reentry and recidivism reduction for state inmates, until then, our local corrections facilities, as you know, were left with little guidance or resources from the state. We know good reentry programs work, and Virginia continues to have one of the lowest recidivism rates in the country. We reinvigorated the Triad organization, which, as you know, is a cooperative effort that has truly helped reduce a lot of the fear of crime and victimization among seniors. Today, Virginia has over 200 cities, counties, and towns with signed Triad agreements, and it has been recognized by the National Association of Triads as having the highest number of active local groups nationwide, and is the only state in the nation that is led and coordinated at the executive level of government, and that's with my office, which we are very proud of. And I took over from an office that had prosecuted almost no gun crimes, and my office to date has prosecuted over 100 of them, including criminals in possession of firearms. And I am pairing that work with gun violence prevention efforts, like the successful Respect Richmond program, and we just secured $2.5 million in funding to expand our work in communities that have been especially hard hit by gun violence. And we have done all of this while at the same time working to make policing safer and our criminal justice system more fair. I'm very proud of the work that we have done over the past 8 years to ensure that you all are able to safely and effectively protect our communities while guaranteeing that everyone is treated fairly and equally, because those two goals are not in conflict, but rather are inextricably linked. And we have to get them both right if we're going to have the safe, successful communities we all want. Also, some of you may have heard my opponent talk about the parole board, and you should not listen to him. He is not being truthful with you, and PolitiFact researched it and said it was false. One of the real blessings of this job has been getting to build a relationship with the law enforcement community and to better understand the challenges and the burdens that are placed on you and ways in which I can help support your work. I continue to be committed to making communities safer, and I continue to be committed to continuing the progress on reforms that help foster successful relationships between law enforcement and the communities they serve, because that is how we will truly achieve public safety. So again, I want to say thank you to all of you for the work that you do every single day on behalf of the Commonwealth, and I look forward to continuing our work together in the months and years ahead. Thank you all so much for your support.
Thanks very much, Chairman. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
They're here, right? Team. What's that? It is. We'll be waiting just a second for the Mr. McAuliffe, the candidate for Democratic candidate for governor, will be here shortly. Kind of need a light up here. Okay. Sheriff Vanessa Crawford, you can come on up here and announcement.
Many of you should have gotten the information through the dispatch maybe a week or so ago, but my office is sponsoring a reentry forum. We have it every year. Normally, well, prior to COVID 2020, we did it in person in Petersburg. However, last year we didn't have it at all. But this year we're partnering with the Virginia Department of Corrections to do it virtually. Our speakers are going to be Andre Norman, Casey Snap, and Kwame Kilpatrick. It's by Zoom, September 29th from 9 to 12. And if you're interested, you can email me, we'll send you the link, or we'll get the link to you somehow. But we have a limited number of people. I think 1,000 people can get on. And it is going across, the link will be shared with people across the country, as well as all of the Virginia Department of Corrections staff and some local jails. So certainly we would love to have you join us. And if you are interested, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, for that. Sounds like a very interesting program that you're offering. and hopefully a lot of people will sign up for it. Well, what about Thursday night football? I don't know. Last week, my Cowboys got beat by the Tampa Bay, and I'm not going to talk about the Washington football team because I do not hate them. I just root for my Cowboys. But Beth, I'm sure you're looking forward to this week's game versus the Giants on Thursday night. And it might be one of the first conferences I've been at that we didn't get to watch the Washington football team and while we were here. Yeah, I'll try. I'll try. My daughter's got volleyball, so hopefully I'll get to see that. And well, interesting note on that, Lenny. My son has always been a Cowboys fan, and he married a Redskin fan. So it's like a house divided on that. And they recently purchased a flag that had the Washington on the upper part and Dallas on the lower part. So. But I hope everybody joins us tonight, 6 to 9, Sheriff's Night. Should be a good evening of food and beverage. And I believe John told me there's a band. A little music. I don't know what kind of music. Hopefully it's
No dance, but we got a little music.
no dance, but a little music. So I don't know. Okay. Let me go. Yeah, I'll wait till he gets in and I'll introduce him.
He's in the hotel.
He's in the hotel. He's probably shaking hands and. He looks better today. His face doesn't look as bad as it did last night. There's Stacy. All right, I believe our guest has arrived, and I'll go ahead and read his profile. Democratic candidate for governor, Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe is a lifelong entrepreneur and proud Democrat who served as the 72nd governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia from 2014 to 2018. As governor, Terry focused on making the Commonwealth welcoming and inclusive and building a 21st century economy that created good jobs and expanded economic opportunity for all Virginians. During his tenure, Terry brought 200,000 good-paying jobs to the Commonwealth, drove unemployment down, and raised personal income over 13%. He invested in workforce development and infrastructure, laid the groundwork for Virginia to be a national leader in clean energy, and helped build a solid cyber ecosystem in the Commonwealth. Time and again, Terry fought the Republican-led legislature. He successfully secured a record $1 billion investment in education and expanded preschool to thousands of Virginia children. As Virginia's First Lady, Terry's wife, Dorothy, made ending childhood hunger in the Commonwealth a priority. Thanks to her tireless advocacy, Virginia made tremendous strides in addressing this critical issue, and schools have served 13 million more meals per year. As governor, Terry served as a brick wall against extreme Republican attacks on women's health care rights. He kept open every woman's health clinic in the Commonwealth and vetoed all anti-women's rights legislation passed by the General Assembly, including a bill that would have defunded Planned Parenthood in Virginia. In 2013, Terry campaigned proudly on his support for marriage equality, and he was the first Southern governor to officiate a gay wedding. On his proudest accomplishments was successfully reversing a racist Jim Crow law that disenfranchised hundreds of thousands of Virginians. Thanks to his efforts, more than 200,000 Virginians have now had their voting rights restored and are able to participate in our democracy. In December 2017, Terry was named Public Official of the Year by Governing Magazine. A tireless champion for progressive policies, Terry has dedicated his life to electing Democrats. He got his start with President Jimmy Carter's campaign when he was just 23 years old, and later served as co-chair of President Bill Clinton's 1996 campaign and chairman of the Democratic National Committee in Hillary Clinton's 2008 presidential campaign. Terry has worked for the last 12 years to build the party infrastructure that led to flipping and keeping the Commonwealth blue. Since leaving office, he has continued to fight for progressive policies and campaign for Democratic candidates across Virginia. The youngest child from a middle-class family, Terry started a business paving driveways for neighbors and local businesses at age 14. Since then, he has worked with and led dozens of businesses in diverse sectors of the economy, helping to improve companies and create economic opportunity. Terry and Dorothy have been married for over 30 years and have 5 children. They live in McLean with their dogs Daisy and Trooper. Welcome, candidate for Governor Terry McAuliffe.
Sheriff, thank you, buddy. Great to be with you, buddy. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, come on, you do better than that. Afternoon. Much better. What an honor, Sheriff. Thank you for that great introduction. I appreciate it. And to John, great to be with you again, buddy. And I'm Terry McAuliffe. I'm running to be the 74th governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And I was recruited to come back in because COVID has been so tough. And I want to thank all the sheriffs, first of all, for all the great work you have done under a very difficult time with COVID. It has affected all of us here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, affected us all across the country. Unfortunately, it's not going away anytime soon. Most estimates say we'll be living with COVID for about another 18 months at a minimum. So we need to continue to grow and diversify this Virginia economy. I came in 2014, as you all remember. Our economy was in chaos. We had the Great Recession. We had sequestration. Virginia was not creating any jobs. I inherited a $2.4 billion deficit from the prior administration, but I got to work. I traveled the globe. I traveled to 5 continents, dozens of countries, recruited 1,100 companies back to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Our economy grew, and I left a big surplus when I left office from the deficit when I went into it. I was all about job creation, 200,000 new jobs. Personal income went up 14%. I'm the one who wrote the bid, got Amazon to come to the Commonwealth of Virginia, which is going to be 35,000 jobs by the time they're done. Nestle, CoStar, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, negotiated with all these companies to get them to come back to our great Commonwealth, and we diversified our economy. But the sheriff's right, in order to do that, we have to be an open and welcoming. That's why I leaned in. When I took office, we had the most anti-women, anti-gay legislation in the country. You are not getting Google, you are not getting Facebook, you are not getting Microsoft if you put walls up around your state. Open and welcoming to everybody. And unemployment went from 5.7 when I took office to 3.3 when I left office. As I say, and personal income went up. But my goal always was to keep our community safe, because I can't recruit businesses if they don't think our state is safe. So I want to thank all the sheriffs and deputies who are here with us today for the great work you've done to keep our community safe, which has allowed me to go recruit all these businesses to the Commonwealth of Virginia. As John will tell you, I was a strong advocate for the sheriffs every single day I was in office. In fact, I wore my hat here today, Governor Terry McAuliffe, sheriff's best governor, because time and time again, when you needed help, when I took office, 1,000 sheriffs were on SNAP benefits. I thought that was disgraceful. So I led the effort to get the funding from the general fund, and I'm very proud. By the time I left office, we had every deputy sheriff off of food stamps. It needed to be done. It hadn't been done before, and it was very important for us to actually do that, to help everybody in order to retrain and bring more folks into the Commonwealth of Virginia. I always had a strong record to help with the sheriffs and do what we needed to do. We got worked together, John, on the compression pay. We got that done when you and I were together. Wasn't easy, but we got it done. $14 million. In a bipartisan way, you and I sat in my office, and I individually negotiated and worked with the legislature to make sure that was actually done. I'm the guy who killed when you came to see me when they didn't want the sheriffs to be able to retain their fines and fees. Remember that one?
$100 million.
In the budget language. I'm the one who took it out. I could go for issue after issue after issue where I stood up for the sheriffs, and I will continue to do it. I remember when law enforcement came to me with the license plate reader. That was a tough one. I got attacked by the right, and I got attacked by the left. But the law enforcement said, you know what, this will keep our communities safe. And I stood with you on that license plate reader. People don't have an expectation of privacy with their license plates. They're driving down streets. But boy, I got attacked from all sides, and I stood with the sheriffs and the troopers and the rest of law enforcement who said we need it as an important tool for us. And you know what? That man who killed that journalist down in Roanoke, if you remember, when Allison Parker was killed, we caught him with a license plate reader a couple months after I was able to protect and make sure we had that in. So on all those issues, on the body-worn cameras, you and I negotiated the regulations on that. Another big issue that, you know, other people for years had kicked down the can. I never kicked the can down the road when it came to public safety. I got you your pay raises, I did the compression pay, I got you off of SNAP benefits, and I was proud to do it. I invested a lot of money in mental health. That was a huge battle I had with the legislature. I wanted a mental health provider in every jail. You are not mental health specialists, and you shouldn't be. That's why I fought with the legislature to get someone in, because many of the people, some estimates are 25% of the people who come into jails, they're having a mental health crisis. Well, let's move them out and get someone who can deal with them with a mental health crisis. Get them out of the criminal justice system, moving over here to mental health, and we ended up getting about $3.5 million, you and I, John, working on that. We did a pilot program. I think we did 6 jails for that, which I was very proud of. And because of all those efforts, I'm very proud. I'm the first and only governor in the history of the Sheriff's Association to be named an honorary sheriff. So I thank you for that great award. I thank you for the award. I have the plaque in my office. I thank you for the hat. And as John will tell you, I'm a much better shot than he is.
No, wait a minute.
Well, well, you just asked how many pheasants we got last time we went hunting together, buddy. But, you know, I always leaned in, but mental health is a big issue, I know, for the sheriffs. So you get stuck on these TDOs and, you know, you're sitting around ever. The mental health facilities are full. You've got to sit around hospital. That's a waste of your time. That's not what we want you to be doing. So we need to invest more. The governor just put $400 million, as you know, into mental health services. We're down about 1/3 of those in our facilities because the pay was bad. So raising the pay is something we need to do. We need more facilities to do it. And we need to get you, as I say, you shouldn't be the transportation services on these mental health. You shouldn't be mental health analysts. That's not your job. I need you on the streets, keeping us safe, keeping our jails protected, doing the right thing. So I invested in this before. Thank goodness now we have Medicaid expansion. And that was probably the biggest fight I had as governor. I don't understand this. As the sheriff mentioned, I started my first business at 14. I had to pay for college. I've started dozens of companies. I was the youngest bank chairman in American history at the age of 30. I've been a huge entrepreneur. I've had huge success. I've had my share of failure. That's what being an entrepreneur is all about. And Medicaid expansion, $2.2 billion a year. We pay it out of our taxes to Washington. You get 100% back, no strings attached. For 7 years, our Republican legislature wouldn't do it. We lost, you lost, sheriffs lost $15.4 billion over 7 years. Has to be one of the dumbest things I have ever heard. Now we got it done. And now we got money to deal with an opioid crisis. Now we got money to deal with a mental health crisis. But we have forfeited billions and billions of dollars. I went and did, when they wouldn't do it, I started my own Healthy Virginia. I put $8 million up. I got mental health coverage for thousands of Virginians. But we had to use state dollars when I could have been using federal dollars and getting our own money back. But now we're in a good place on that. So I'm excited about the future. We've got to continue to grow our economy. We've got to help rural parts of the state. We've got to get broadband access for everybody. We got to invest more money in schools. I've got a $2 billion investment in schools. If you take average teacher pay and compare it to the average pay of our residents, Virginia ranks 50th out of 50 states. That is a disgrace for the 10th wealthiest state in the United States of America. So there's a lot of big issues we need to deal with. We've got to rebuild schools. We've got to make sure at-risk 3- and 4-year-olds get access to pre-K. But I got out of bed every single day wanting to make sure that our communities were safe. There was not a time that John did not ask me for something for the sheriffs that I said no. Not once. I was there for you time and time again because you know why? You were there for me time and time again, and I just want to say thank you. I have an open door policy, and anyone who wanted to come see me on any big issues. I'm not going to spend much time talking about my opponent because I got positive things to say of what I want to get done. I would just say his economic plan that he has laid out, don't take my word for it, read the Roanoke Times and read the Washington Post. His economic plan will decimate, it will defund the police. Sheriffs will lose $250 million. Please don't take my word for it. Do your independent analysis. 2 reports came out yesterday. You cannot afford to have $250 million taken out of your budget. But that's with that economic plan. Just check it yourselves. You should do your own research. This is an important election. I will stand with you time and time again to assist you in what you need to do. I would love your vote for governor. We've got an election in about 49 days, and early vote starts on Friday. So thank you. Thanks for the hat. Thanks for the award for the honorary sheriff. And thank you for what you do to keep Virginia safe. And I'll be glad to take questions from anybody in the audience.
You got one.
Sure.
Sheriff Stolley. Sheriff Stolley in Virginia Beach.
I know where Sheriff Stolley is.
Governor, how are
I've been
you?
out drinking with him. Yes, sir.
It's good to see you.
How you been, Sheriff?
You know, I think politics is about not what you've done in the past. I think people want to know what you're going to do in the future.
Yeah.
And you know that as well as anybody does. And I'll be the first to say that you were very helpful to us when you were the past governor, the 72nd governor of Virginia. But the issue on my mind and most everybody's mind here is what are you going to do on the qualified immunity?
Sure.
If a qualified immunity bill comes to you, will you veto it?
Yeah. So thank you for the question. And you mentioned about the future. If you do get a chance, I have 20 very serious policy proposals on my website, Terry for Virginia. 166 very detailed pages. In comparison to my opponent, for 7 months he had one issue, election integrity, which is the big lie, crazy Trump theory about 2020. So I've got really serious policy proposals. So, Sheriff, what I'll do is any law enforcement officer in this Commonwealth who goes out every single day and operates in good faith will have the full immunity of the Commonwealth of Virginia. The only ones that wouldn't be protected are any officers, law enforcement, who break the law. Outside of that, 100% supportive of what you would do, and I know you have a commission, there's folks looking at this issue. I would do, Ken, what I do with everybody. You come in the office with me, let's sit down and figure out what makes the most sense. But I never want anybody who is out there in good faith protecting us worried that they're going to be sued. I wouldn't support that. I didn't before. I had sheriffs back on every single issue when I was governor. I'm not going to change that this time around. That's why they call it qualified immunity. It doesn't go to those who break the law, but if you're acting in good faith, you're going to get 100% protection. And I will be there, and I will guarantee that.
Well, thank you, Governor. The only concern I have about that is it doesn't cover criminal acts now.
Is what?
It doesn't cover, qualified immunity doesn't cover criminal acts now.
I agree.
And so why would
So
we
it's
have
not going to change.
Why would, you're not going to support any change to the current law?
Unless you come to me, the sheriff's coming, I think the legislature put a commission together to look at it. I'm not, Ken, you can take this to the bank. I'm not going to do anything that would affect your ability to do your job, and I never want you to worry that you could be sued unjustly by anybody.
Thank
Ever.
you, Terry.
You have my word on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yes, sir. Hi, I'm David Hill, the sheriff of Nelson County.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Rickoff, kids in our school system today are our future leaders. They have been experiencing some hardships over the last few years that I recently have been made aware of. Since 2019, in Nelson County, therapeutic day treatment had been taken out of the school system.
What's been taken out?
Therapeutic day treatment. Basically, counselors that would work with kids that are at risk because of behavioral issues, parents, split homes. The kids that, unfortunately, they may not have the upbringing that most of us would prefer. But what is happening is a lot of these kiddos are becoming products of their environment. Moms and dads, single homes, they're working 2 and 3 jobs to provide. But here for the last year and a half, they've been taken out of the school system. Sitting at home, learning remotely, but also they've lacked that structure. Now they've been thrown back into the school system, and these behaviors that we would prefer that these kids would exhibit in a structured setting They no longer have those crisis counselors, those therapeutic day treatment counselors to assist them and help them. And my perspective is, I was a professional counselor. I took a little hiatus from law enforcement, but I worked in the school system. But some of the things that I personally have witnessed in the last month, it is atrocious. It's sad. I will openly tell you all this. This week, I've received 2 resignations from 2 of our SROs. Not only that, our teachers are struggling. There are many people that are leaving the education field as well. But what can you do to help rebuild that?
Yeah, great question. And if you do get a chance, I got a huge section on education. The reason I'm back for me is about education. We've got a crisis on education. We're down 1,100 teachers today in Virginia, similar to why sheriffs are down. I spoke to Colonel Settles, the other state police. He's down 327 or something like that. A lot of it comes down to pay. We've got to pay our people. You know, I tried to always raise pay as governor. Always got fought by my Republican legislatures. John will tell you. And here's the Democratic governor continually trying to raise everybody's pay. Because you know why? We can keep the best. You've lost a lot of sheriffs. We've lost a lot of chiefs. We've lost a lot of troopers to Texas and other states because they pay them more. I talked to a lot of sheriffs. I mean, even in Hampton Roads, you got one of the varying jurisdictions pays more than another. Certain jurisdiction will train them and then immediately get picked off to another jurisdiction. And we got to fix that. So I'm all about raising pay. I want to do this with our teachers. We do need more counselors. I could not agree with you more. I always view education as an investment. I mean, if we have the best education in the world, and let's be honest, we just last 2-3 months ago got named the #1 state for business twice. First time any state's ever gotten it twice in a row. We're ranked #1 in America on higher ed, and we're ranked 4th in America today on our K-12. So we're in good shape, but we have holes in it. And what you're referring to is one of the holes that we need to fix. I got to raise teacher pay. We got to do something about the broadband. It is really unfair during COVID for online learning when 14% of our students can't online learn because they don't have broadband. That's really unfair. And of the 14%, 60% rural, 40% is urban. They got to go to a McDonald's, to a Wi-Fi hotspot, or whatever it may be. That's unfair, so I promise you I'll get broadband within 2 years. The governor just announced $700 million investment, thanks to the American Rescue Plan, which I will think, you know, my opponent's against it. I'm all for it. We got $14.4 billion, that's a B, already cash into Virginia. I'm all for it. Federal government's got money, I want every penny. But we've got to rebuild we got to get more counselors, mental health providers in there in our schools. We've got to spend money, but it's an investment. And if you read my plan, and let's be clear, and please don't take my word for it. Read the Roanoke Times editorial page. Read the Washington Post. Please read the 2 independent reports that just came out. Not only will it decimate police, law enforcement, defund police, Glenn Youngkin's plan, 43,000 teachers will be fired. $10 billion in cut. Read it yourself. And don't get into these knee-jerk political arguments, Democrat, Republican. I don't really care. Who's going to do the best job? Who's got the best plan? You should do your research. Don't just come into a situation, oh, he's a Democrat, he's a Republican. Who cares? Who's going to do the best job? I got a track record here of getting us out of chaos. I did it before, I'll do it again. We got to rebuild a lot of our schools. I was in Bristol the other day. Highland View, the only elementary school in Bristol. Love the principal. She worked with my wife. As you know, 13 million more meals served to needy children my last year when I took office. 13 million more meals served to needy children. The prior administration, oh, we're not going to bring down this federal money. Really? You're not? We brought every penny down, and 13 million more meals served to kids. You know, they can't learn. They're hungry to learn. They can't learn if they're hungry. So I was touring the school with the principal and my wife, Dorothy, and I noticed, I said to the principal, what are those holes? And she said, Governor, we are infested with rats. This is an elementary school in Bristol, Highland. Luckily, television cameras were with me, or else they wouldn't have believed what I said. She said, that's not half of it. Our ceiling is infested with bats. So she got bats, she got rats. She had a fire the other day outside her office because the wiring is so old. The boiler works, boiler doesn't work. They have one bathroom, 2 stalls, little sign, teachers and students. That's unacceptable. Your education should not be dependent on your zip code. Rebuild our schools, get more college counselors in there, guidance counselors in there, people to deal with, because listen, these children have lost a year and a half. You know it and I've known it. I mean, I've got 5 children. I had 1 in high school, I had 1 in college. I was a good parent, just like the rest of you. The first month, you know, Peter, you come down here in the kitchen. I want to watch you do your Zoom in on school. You know, I'll be honest with you, 2nd month and by 3rd month, he's up in his bedroom, he's got it on his lap, he's got his phone going. It happened to everybody. You know, we've got to get back. And if you have a great educated workforce, there's not a business in the globe that I can't bring in. I did it before. The biggest deal in 40 years was Amazon. I wrote that bid. I worked with Virginia Tech to build the $1 billion Innovation Technology Center up there that we're doing. We can do this. But I'm with you 100%. More money, investments in schools. More money, more investment for our public safety. I view public safety as a way I can sell Virginia. I view education the same way. I view transportation. I did $10 billion. I did more P3s than any governor. Rebuilding roads, that's what I'm all about. I'm a very results-oriented individual, but I will work with anybody. I don't care what your party persuasion is. If you'll come in my office, as John learned, sit with me, let's come. I like people walking out of my office where they both feel good, we've done some good. And we always felt good because we always got it done. But it was the right thing to do for Virginia, so I'm happy to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Sheriff Bob Ozier, Fauquier County. Just saw you recently, but
That was a great event.
back in 2016, I remember going to the governor's mansion, and you asked if there were any Republicans in the House, and I was a lone guy that raised my hand, I think. But
And you still, still gave you a beer?
yeah, you did.
Couple.
I wasn't in uniform.
If I remember, you didn't leave till about 1:30,
yeah.
but I won't get into that today.
So, look, you know, one of the things that is a problem that's across the Commonwealth, and it affects everyone, is mental health. And I know that you've talked about mental health, but specifically, what is your plan to deal with TDOs, ECOs, and to get people the help that they need? Because we are a revolving door and a revolving service. And I'm not trying to undercut the importance of this here, but we have law enforcement officers that are dedicated to watching people 2 and 3 days at a time or longer for something that we have no control over because it's been given to us. We're the last stop. What are you going to do to fix this? I mean,
And I've got a whole plan on this in my website. When you get a chance, I have a whole health plan. And I remind you, my opponent does not have a health plan at all. Not one. Now, you can read my plan. I'm going to talk about how I'm going to expand Medicaid. I'm going to get a Section 1332 waiver from the federal government, stand up my own reinsurance. I am going to do our own marketplace. I'm going to bring premiums down, bring the cost of prescription drugs. Huge, extensive plan. Also, I've got to invest in mental health. We have to build more facilities. As you saw, 2 months ago, our 8 facilities were at full capacity. So you've got someone in the back of the squad car, you go there, okay, no room, so you got to be stuck 2-3 days at a hospital. As I mentioned earlier, that's not what we're paying you to do, nor is that serving the community. We need to build more mental health facilities here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Number 1, we need more beds. Number 2, we need more mental health providers. And that's why when you look through my plan, I talk about new college courses of training folks, raising the pay. So more facilities, more staff. We're down, I think we've lost a third. And listen, I understand think of what these people are doing. You have to deal with it yourselves, but think of somebody who is working in one of our mental health facilities and dealing with 30, 40, whatever it may be on a daily basis. It's hard work. So paying more and more facilities. As I said, the Governor Northam just put $400 million into the budget. So I think we're going to have some real progress, but I want somebody in every jail who understands the issues of mental health, is a trained specialist. So that as soon as that happens, they're taking over the mental health specialist, and then we can immediately, if that's the diagnosis, is immediately taken to a facility, taken to a bed. Out of your hands, you are not mental health specialists. You're not trained to do it, nor should you be doing it. It needs to be someone who's trained. That's what I would do, so you're never stuck with these TDOs and so forth. I did a pilot project. We put, what was it, John, $6 million in with 6 jails. 6 jails, right? And it's been very successful. So I want to extend that to the whole Commonwealth. I mean, I've done this before. This isn't talk for me. I've done it. But, we got to invest more money. Now, we have a $2.6 billion surplus the governor just announced, which is great. When I went in last time, a $2.4 billion deficit, which is great news. Our economy, as I say, we're better than most states. We are the #1 recipient of Department of Defense dollars, 27 military installations, the largest naval base in the world, the Pentagon CA. So, we can weather this better than other states. But continuing to grow this economy will give me more income. We've got 5 casinos coming online. They're going to generate about $3 to $340 million a year for the state. We're going to have the marijuana licenses going on. That will happen. That'll generate another $300 to $400 million for us. So, we've got some new, in addition to new business activity. So I'm going to spend money, build more facilities, train, and get more staff so that you can immediately do the handoff, which is the right thing to do for you, for the state, and for that individual. You have my word.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sure.
And thank you. I was just going to say, Phil, I'll make one comment on behalf of law enforcement.
Sure.
And I would say for whoever's elected, we would like to see this. All of us in this room, and I will say myself, I was shocked by a society last year, that a society that so prides itself on not condemning innocent people, but yet one officer did something states away and an entire nation of police officers was demonized.
Yeah.
I would like to see leaders, and no one, Republican or Democrat, stood up for our officers and said, whoa, that is one bad apple, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I would like to see more of that, and I would like to see it start. Also, if elected, you did say when you were governor before, I will believe the intent and the passion. You said you were going to get officers off of food stamps. You did give a raise, but if elected, one thing I want to see, you gave a raise to get them off. I'm going to take a second to explain a regrade that comes from a state compensation board.
Yep.
When an officer has been on a state compensation board 1 year, they get a 9.3% regrade. My understanding of what happened, there was money added, but 4.8% of that was moved to starting salary, and in conjunction with that, so now they got more starting pay, but they lost near 5% that they was going to get later on. So our own money was reworked.
Yeah.
And I do want to say, in these comments I'm making, I'm not attacking, but
Yeah.
I feel on behalf of our officers we represent, when we used to sit someone down and tell them, you just went on a state compensation board, and a 9.3 was about $3,500 to them, and their eyes would widen. That was a nice raise. Now when we sit down and tell them they've got a 4.5, it's $1,500, $1,600, and it's like, thank you. I would like to see not having to fight for pay to stay right above the poverty line.
Yeah. And the first issue, let me say, if you see any of my public statements, I have always stood up for law enforcement. Always. Never, and listen, if you got someone who does, I appreciate what you do every single day. As governor, I never missed a funeral. Not one. The only governor never to miss a funeral. I respect what you do. You put your lives on the line every single day. So I have always been an advocate because A, it's the right thing, but B, you're doing your job. It allows me to bring in more businesses, which I love. I brought 1,100 economic deals, 20 billion of new capital. I couldn't do that if I didn't have safe streets and people view in Virginia. When I was governor, we had the lowest crime rate. Listen to me very carefully because I know my opponent's running some crazy ad. When I was governor, the state of Virginia had the lowest crime rate of any major state in the United States of America. Not 2, not 3, not 10. The lowest. And I was proud of that. And I thank you for helping me get that. I had the lowest recidivism rate of any state in America. That's a fact. So When you see these crazy ads with people saying crazy things, all I ever ask you to do, go do your fact checking yourself. Just, don't take my word for any of that. Just check your facts. And as it relates to pay, I don't believe in a shell game where, I never liked the bonuses. I guess with the bonuses, John, you and I talked about it, but you want permanent. I mean, it goes to your pension. You want pay raises, a bonus. They always like to do things on the cheap in Richmond. You know that. I want to see our sheriffs up to where they need to be. We're going to figure out what that number is going to be. I want my state police, they're down, as I said, 327. All of our law enforcement. So now that I have a little maneuvering room, I did everything I could when I was governor, but, they left me a $2.5 billion deficit. I had to get to work to build us out of a hole. Now I got a surplus, and I got all this federal government money coming in here. It's time to set things right. I did it before, I'll do it again, plain and simple. Happy to work with you on that, and my door is always open. And as every sheriff knows, I'm the first governor in America to put a kegerator in the mansion. That tap was going around the clock, 24/7. Anybody can come, and I'll make a promise to you this time, I'm putting 2 in. I'm putting 1 at each end of the ballway, right? I didn't like lines in there waiting for my craft beer. But, my door's always open. You got issues, come talk to me. Don't get this. It's gotten so brittle in American politics. Just come talk to me. Here's what I'd like to get done. How do we do it? Great. I don't care what part of the state you're from, and I don't care what your political party is either. I was very proud as governor. I helped get us the #1 state in business, #1 state for higher ed, #4 on K through 12. Very proud of that. I'm very proud we won the Amazon deal. It was the biggest, most competitive thing, as I say, in tech. That's what I get excited about. Very proud of that. Open and welcoming. And you're right, Sheriff. I did have to veto those bills that would have shut the women's clinics down. And if I didn't get elected, all 16 women's clinics would be closed today. And let me tell you this, there is 0 chance Amazon would have come here. Texas has just passed a law to ban abortions. A woman doesn't even know she's pregnant in 6 weeks. And then they got these crazy bounties of 10 grand and, you can go sue your neighbor, the Uber driver. Well, let me tell you this. I've already been on the phone with Salesforce folks. I want to get HP, Dell, American Airlines. Salesforce has already said, that's it. We're done with Texas. These companies are going to leave that state in droves. I want them to come here, open and welcoming.
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Good day, Governor. Sheriff Hank Parton, Montgomery County. I'm
Hi,
glad
sir.
you enjoyed the ads. I've enjoyed them myself, too.
Good.
I'm just old country boy, so maybe I misunderstood. Sheriff Stawley's question about qualified immunity.
Yeah.
Can you give us a yes or a no? Will you veto that bill if it comes before you?
If I get a bill in front of me on qualified immunity that in any way restricts a sheriff or any law enforcement's protections for doing their job every single day, I'd veto it. You bet I would.
I have one follow-up. On July 20th, you accepted an endorsement from the New Virginia Majority. They are a large defund the police organization who want to abolish prisons and ICE. You said that you were proud to accept their endorsement.
Well, first of all, Sheriff, I'm proud to accept any endorsements. I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Groups that endorse me, I don't know everything they do. Have I ever supported defund the police? Are you out of your mind? I've invested in law enforcement. I just went through 25 minutes of telling you what I do for the police. Not defunded, I funded them.
So you'll never support defunding?
I won't even dignify that with an answer. If my track record of 4 years as governor, not enough for you to understand how I feel on law enforcement, I will not dignify that with an answer.
Unbelievable. I don't believe an answer to either one of those questions.
Well, I don't care what you believe. I got a track record. And I'm proud of that track record. And I funded the police. I've never been for defund the police. So don't bring your political rhetoric in here to me. I got a record. I deal in facts. And just look at my track record. Yeah, thank you. Look at my record. Match against any governor in the history of the state. That's why I was an honorary sheriff. And thank you for that. Who else has got a question here? Anybody else? Well, if not, I want to thank you all for this has been an enjoyable conversation. My door will always be open to you. I went through item after item after item of what I did for you before, and that was just a warm-up to what we can get together again. So I look forward with you, Mr. President. Thank you, new incoming president. John, great to work with you. I see great Stacy Kincaid, one of the greatest sheriffs in American history, and I really look forward to working with you, Stacy, on a lot of big issues. Thank you, and God love the sheriffs. Thank you very much. That was good, buddy. You got to go hunting, man. Thank you, man.
I'm sorry that it went that way. Please don't hold that against me.
I don't. You know me better than that. Go ahead. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Go hunting, Johnny.
All right, I guess everybody figured out we're break till 3:30. Over a little bit. Damn, pardon.
Why do you do that?
Look at this shit right here. Take this.
All it is a rhetoric. That's what he said.
Take that shit outside.
Oh, did a good job.
Yeah.